I'll tell you something that will sound very insensitive, but my mom dying was the best thing that could have ever happened to us. My mom, after a while, she got infected with HIV and she got sick and she died. I was around 8 years old. Yeah, I think I was 8 years old. After 4 years of terrorism, my mom died because my grandma left when I was 4, and then when I was 8, my mom died. That was the best thing that could have ever happened to me and my brothers, because for the first time in our lives, we had food. For the first time in our lives, we could go to school now. Because what happened is, when my mom died, my grandma came for the funeral. Remember, she had gone to the US, and then she came for the funeral and was all sad. Everybody was crying. Me, I'm like, why is everybody crying? Like, I didn't know this woman. So actually, at the funeral, I remember I refused to participate in the charade that everybody was part of. Like, everybody was crying and telling me to cry. I didn't know why I was supposed to cry, because it's not like I lost somebody that I knew. I had met my mom like 2-3 times, so I wasn't gonna be doing that. I mean, I went outside the place where the funeral was happening, and I went to play, and I was out there, and then people were coming for me so that we can take pictures, by the gravesite, or saddy stories. So after my grandma came back, she was like, okay, mwana musiare dateago, a child who has been born cannot be thrown away. So they decided that they're gonna take us to school, and we were shipped to boarding school, unfortunately, but yeah, at least we went to school. And in boarding school, at least we were sure we were gonna eat. We were safe. Nobody's gonna terrorize us there. And we actually ended up in it wasn't the best schools, but it was, my brother and I went to boarding school in Kajiado. It was far away, but it was better than the survivors that we had learned in the village. So we went to boarding school, and now we started learning, because now suddenly when I arrived in boarding school, I remember I only knew Kikuyu. I didn't know how to speak Swahili. I didn't know how to speak English. Swahili was broken. English was 0%. And I'm telling you, I learned English there. I learned Swahili. And yeah, it started working out. I remember the teachers feeling sorry for us. We were emaciated. We were thin and skinny. And yeah, it wasn't a good sight. And one of the matrons there, she just liked us, and she was really always looking out for us. Sometimes we never got visited because there's no one really caring. My grandmother went back to the US, so she's not really bothered about much. She had to go back to her life. So yeah, so boarding school was security for us. It was just food, shelter, and comfort. So when we were learning this, in school, you start learning things, and then, sex education starts happening. And here, I'm like, hey, what do you mean sex? When I learned that what was happening to me with my uncles back home was where children come from, it was a shock. I was like, the hell? So when I came home from school, it's a boarding school, we closed school. When I came home from school, I was like, hey, y'all, I'm not participating in this crap anymore. No, man, what the hell? You guys want me to get pregnant? Of course, by then I hadn't started my period. We hadn't reached that level yet of education, but we had learned the sex education, because I think teachers would teach children so that they know that if somebody touches you in certain areas, that's inappropriate, because that's what this and that is. You teach children these things nowadays because the world is a twisted place. So I learned about sex in boarding school, and that's when I came back home and I was like, no. And that's how my abuse stopped. Then I stopped, it stopped that way, because I was like, no. But it's funny, life, I don't know, trauma is funny. And, I knew the abuse had happened, but I didn't know what impact it had done to my life. So as I'm growing up, I started becoming a teenager who is super angry. I was angry at everything. I used to throw major tantrums. I used to associate those feelings with the anger that I had in me and bitterness. I was so bitter. I didn't know why. I just associated it with, as in, I took those two things as different things. Like the abuse is there, it's happened and it stopped, so that's over. And now there is anger, teenage. I'm just a teenager, you start learning about teenagers and then how they, mood changes. So all I accounted my issues to just being a teenager who has emotional issues. I actually thought I was crazy because I'm telling you, the amount of anger that I used to hold inside my heart was unbelievable. I was so angry with my grandmother. My grandmother would come to Kenya to visit. I would unleash anger on her like crazy because for me, I think eventually I understood that I blamed her for leaving us behind, for leaving me specifically behind. Yes, she wasn't really I wasn't really her responsibility, but I was like, you knew your daughter. You knew that your daughter was irresponsible, and then you left me at the hands of these animals. And now this happened. And I didn't even associate that at that point, just that through counseling and understanding these things is when I have come to understand, oh yeah, that's why I used to be mad at my grandma. And funny enough, I wasn't as mad with these uncles. We used to have it wasn't normal. First thing, there wasn't respect. They used to demand respect from me. That somehow could not register. In my head, it just refused. Respect. What respect? You lost your respect the moment you touched my boobs as a child. You lost your respect the moment you removed my panties. That's when respect went out of the window, and it will never come back. So they used to demand respect from me, and I was like, hell no, that ain't happening. And they used to be so mad and used to poison the well. And to date, they poison the well about how rebellious and angry and disrespectful I am as an individual. But I don't really give a shit about that because for me, it's like, yeah, nobody in my family believes that this actually happened. When I tried to tell them, they said that I lied, that there's no way a child of between 4 to 8 years can remember such trauma, that it's a lie, that I made it up. I'm like, okay, fine, I made it up and I can't convince you otherwise. So they say that I lied. So now, when they see my anger towards my uncles or whatever, how disrespectful maybe I am towards them, or the fact that it's 0% the respect that I give them, they assume that I'm just rude and disrespectful. But it's just like, come on, put yourself in my shoes. How exactly am I supposed to respect this person? And then now my aunties will be like, oh, Wango is so disrespectful. She doesn't respect anybody. Do you see how she treats Uncle so-and-so? Do you see how she treats this and that person? I'm like, yeah. Do you see? Do you know what this so-and-so did? And they have I don't expect them to own up, but then it's just, I don't know, it's impossible. Like, it's basically impossible. Forgiveness has happened, but forgiveness doesn't mean that now we fellowship, Sometimes I think people don't understand that. When you forgive, it's not about them. I didn't forgive for them. I forgave for me. I forgive myself, I forgive for my sanity. I forgive for my peace of mind. I forgive for my daughter's sake. I forgive for me to be able to carry out a relationship in future. That's the reason why I forgave. I didn't forgive so that I can start fellowshipping with you and eating dinner with you and sitting at your table and being your best friend. No, I forgive so that I can live a normal life. So forgiveness is not usually about the other person. It's about you. If you continue the path of bitterness, it's you who is dying. So I just figured, you know what, Wango, it's time to let go of these things and move on with your life. And I have. If you had the same experience as me, you have to forgive for you, not for them, for you, for your sanity.